Hey everybody, it's Ryan Fontenot with the 1 Million Cent Podcast. Welcome today. I am so excited you are here because on this podcast, whether you are watching or listening, we have a very simple goal, and that is to inspire, equip, and encourage the next generation to live on mission where they are, being able to have Jesus conversations in everyday life. And so each week, each episode, you are hearing not only from me, but from another leader in ministry, another man or woman who has a passion and a heart for the next generation and seeing them live life on mission. And today, I am so excited to have a great friend that, man, I've recently got to know over the last year. We're on a Zoom call together with other youth pastors from around the country. We text back and forth. He is actually serving as a student pastor about 30 minutes from where I grew up. Y'all, welcome my friend Caleb Nichols to the podcast. Caleb, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Just happy to be here. Excited for this podcast and everything you guys are doing with 1 Million Cent. Man, just glad to be part of it, man.
Dude, well, thanks for what you're doing. Caleb, tell everybody where you're at. Tell us a little bit about your family, bro.
Yeah, so I'm in Shreveport, Louisiana, a church called Broadmoor Baptist. Been here for a few years now. I got my incredible, amazing, beautiful wife, Morgan, and a almost 2-year-old. His name's Bishop. He's the coolest person in the world. Dude, he's so much fun right now. Running all over the place, learning all the words, doing everything I do. It's so much fun. But we're originally from a place called Wichita Falls, Texas. Born and raised there. And then through, just God working in our lives, ended up in Shreveport, Louisiana, which when the church here called, they were like, hey, we want you to come do this. I was like, there's no way on God's green earth I'm moving to Shreveport, Louisiana. And they talked us into coming and visiting. And man, we got here and we were like, where the heck are we? And we were here for like 4 hours. We're like, this is where God wants us to be. So we've been here 3 years. We love it, dude. We love it.
Dude, isn't it great the way God works, man? He always takes our I don't think so, and then he just does something in our heart. We're like, hey man, I gotta go. And I love it. I love it, man. That's it's just a real question I got for you before we jump into anything too serious here. So have you been to Monjuni's? Have you been to Monjuni's?
Oh, okay. So for anyone listening, if you end up in Shreveport, Louisiana, you have to go to a place called Monjuni's. I'll spell it out for you. MONJUNI''S. All right. Let me tell you, you got to get the lasagna, or if you get the spaghetti, you have to get a meatball. All right. We're talking meatballs the size of my child when he was born. All right. And so this is it's controversial though, because they have this sweet sauce, and you either love it or you hate it, but you have to try it, because if you're gonna love it, it's gonna be the best thing you've ever eaten. All right, so you gotta go to Monjuni's. You gotta go to
Monjuni's. You literally took every word out of my mouth there, Caleb. I'm telling you, when I come to Shreveport, there's no other way, man. I always eat at Monjuni's, and so next time, man. We're meeting up. We're making it happen. We're gonna throw down some pasta.
Come on down,
man. So,
on.
Man, well that's awesome.
I love it.
Well, on the line of just quick fire questions, let's hit a few of these before we jump into too much serious stuff. Number one, Caleb, are you a coffee guy or are you an energy drink guy?
Neither. I neither drink coffee or energy drinks. I'm just tired all the time.
I love it. I love it. All right. What's your drink of choice, man? Water or what?
Dr. Pepper.
Dr.
Pepper.
Okay.
Tea.
Oh, see, I knew there had to be some vice in your life, man. I know this is just very neat.
It's a problem.
Yeah.
I'm a Texas boy forever.
Yeah, bro. That's right. Man, I love it. So having said that, would you consider yourself a morning, midday, or night person?
I would say probably like late midday to night.
Wow. 100%. Okay, man.
But then I had a kid, and that just I don't know if there's any time of the day that you're like good.
You don't know what you are now. That's right.
Not at all.
No idea.
Not at all. Not at all.
I love it. So when you travel, man, I know in student ministry you travel with students and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But when you travel by yourself, recreationally, whatever, do you prefer to drive or are you a fly guy?
Dude, I love to fly. I love the experience. I love going to the airport. I love all of it, man. I would fly everywhere if I could, but I'm not a Kardashian. So
Hey, there we go. Hey, you're not. If you are, let's talk after it. All right. So we have a nonprofit. We have a nonprofit we're running here, bro. So no. So anyway, man. Well, cool. Well, is there a season you prefer? Winter, spring, summer, fall? What's kind of your go-to weather?
Man, like I really, I'm one of those guys that I love the start of a new season.
Okay.
After I've been in the season, I'm like, I'm ready for the next one, right?
Okay. Yeah, I like it. You like that.
I love summer, dude. For student ministry, it's a blast. Like it's the best time of year for student ministry.
Yeah.
But then the later in the summer, you get to hang out with the family and for a little bit before the school year starts up. So summer's probably the one for me.
I love it, man. So when it comes to a terrain, are you a ocean guy, beach guy, or a mountain guy?
I think I would rather be like ocean beach.
Ocean beach. I like that. Okay.
I think so, man.
Yeah.
Because usually near a beach, there's civilization. Bro, you up in a mountain, you get lost, you're on your own.
You're on your own, baby. You're on your own. Crazy stuff happens in mountains, man. Ain't nobody trying to do that. So that's good, man. That's good. So dessert-wise, I mean, we spoke a little bit about Monjunis, but dessert-wise, are you a pie guy? Or are you a cake guy or something totally different?
Dude.
Or yes.
So I am like, yeah. So okay. So also here in Shreveport, there's a place called Strawn's.
Yeah. Right? Oh, don't eat, man. I'm telling you.
It's the pie capital of the world. All right. And I don't care if coconut pie is for you or not. You have to go to Strawn's and have a slice of coconut pie. All right.
Yes.
But honestly, man, I'm more of a we had steak for dinner. Let me hold off for 30 minutes and let my stomach stretch and have more steak.
Yeah. There you go. That's good. Yeah.
That's how I roll.
That's right, man. Dude, Strawn's. Oh man, you fit. You're like a native there now, man. You're in. I mean, you were totally.
Yeah, I'm pretty much a local.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Well, maybe we'll flip it a little more spiritual now. So when it comes to the Bible, all right, we have the Old Testament and the New Testament. Now, is your preference Old Testament, New Testament? Where do you land most of the time?
Oh, that's a great question.
And I know the Jesus answers both. I get that. I know that.
Right. I love this is probably kind of a political history because I'm not picking one or the other, but I love the New Testament for here's how you're supposed to live. And I love the Old Testament of going and finding examples of that because I think the Old Testament is so good about telling the story of people's lives, right? And the New Testament is here's what it's like to be a follower of Jesus. And so I love to read the New Testament and see that fulfilled in people's lives before Jesus even, came to earth. And so those for different reasons, I guess.
He said, depends on the day. I always help guys who speak through this question. If we were to look at your sermons, would you have more Old Testament sermons or more New Testament sermons?
Ooh,
Caleb, I can't get an answer out of you for nothing, man.
I know. I would say probably, dude, I don't know. I like to mix it up. I like all my sermons have a little bit of both.
Okay.
But probably more New Testament if it were one or the other. Yeah.
Well, we're going to need you to do some research and get back to us on that. All right.
Okay. I'll send Ryan stats on some future one. I'll let y'all know.
We're hanging in there, man. That's good. That's good. Well, speaking of the New Testament, when it comes to New Testament, the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, what would you say is kind of your go-to gospel? If you were to maybe share with somebody, hey, this is the one you need to read, or one that you really like the most, the way they write, the Matthew, Mark, and Luke always write a little bit different. John, not so. Pick one, Caleb. You cannot say all of them on this one. Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna say Luke.
All right. Okay.
I'm gonna
All
go
right.
Luke.
Is
Yeah,
there a particular reason? Or are you
well,
just throwing that out?
like, Matthew, Mark, and John were I'm researching right now to make sure I'm not
I like that.
make sure I'm not
Matthew,
lying to you. So
Matthew, Mark,
Mark,
Luke
and
were the
John,
synoptics, right?
right?
Go
And
ahead.
then John's the I Love Jesus book.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Luke was a doctor,
That's right. Yep.
probably a Gentile,
Yeah.
and he was writing after the fact.
Yeah.
His was all research, so his was
That's
purely
right.
out of people going around and asking, and Luke really writes from an amazement at the miracles Jesus did because he was a doctor and he was like, these things should be possible, basically.
Right.
And I think that's a cool perspective because that's the perspective we all have, right?
Yeah, that's right.
We're looking at the life of Jesus and we're doing research. I mean, really, post, and I think it's so cool that a man of science, when going through the scientific method of looking at Jesus' life, came to the conclusion of this has to be the Son of God, and like he rose again. So I just think that's a cool way to look at it.
Yeah, man, I agree. I'm a Mark guy. I love John, obviously, and John let everybody know that Jesus loved him. But I like Mark, man, because he just kind of gets to the point, right? He's like, boom, and immediately and straight away, and this would happen. He's kind of the Cliff Note version,
Right?
So,
yeah, he's like, few words will do. Fewer words.
That's right. Let me just tell y'all what happened. Yeah. And Luke was more like, let me tell you what I found out, and he gives the details and everything. So so it takes them all, man. I love all of that. Well, I got a last question before we jump into some of the other things. And this is one I don't want you to answer right now. I want you to think about. And we'll come back at the very end and we'll answer.
All right.
And that is this: is Caleb a dog guy or a cat guy? All right, that's the question. Are you a dog guy? Or are you a cat guy? Now, don't tell us yet. Okay. And listen, if you're watching this, you're listening to this, and you're able to drop in the comment and say, I think he is go ahead, take your guess. We're going to find out shortly. So anyway, man, so you told us you are in Shreveport, Louisiana. You are at Broadmoor Baptist Church. Man, I have friends all around that area, some in the church there. And I just got to know, man, like, tell us a little bit about what you do. Are you student pastor? If you are, what does that entail? For people watching or listening, what is it that you actually do? And I know you get that question a lot because so do I. What do you do, man?
So I'm student pastor here. I'm basically over here ministering to 6th through 12th graders here. So middle schoolers and high schoolers. And that includes a lot of things, man. I mean, I've got a team that I lead. We've got several events that we do throughout the year that we put on. So a daily thing is I do stuff that everybody else does. I answer emails. I put in check requests in the business office, like all those things that you do at a normal job. But I also get to do really fun stuff like go to middle school lunches and hang out with students. I get to go see students at our high schools and their clubs and stuff like that. I get to communicate the word. I get to teach on Wednesdays and Sundays. I get to write curriculum for our small groups. There's a lot that entails, but to sum it all up, basically what I do is I do whatever I can to help students know God better. And whether that's someone who's known God for 10 years as a student already, and we're just helping them grow in their relationship with Christ, or someone who has never heard the news of Jesus in a real way. I want to help them know God better, which is for them to meet him. And I would tell you, that's 90% of my goal is to helping the lost know Jesus. So we do a ton of stuff that encompasses that. But I think you would probably agree, Ryan. I don't know if there's a way to sum up what we do, because we
No,
probably,
no.
there'd be lawsuits involved or something. I don't know.
That's right.
So
Yeah, man. They'd be like, you
yeah,
probably, yeah, there definitely, man, be some questions. But all the stuff that you mentioned, it's hilarious because I've never really heard a guy kind of share a check requests and all that. And those are things nobody thinks about, like, renting a
yeah,
van, check requests, visiting a school. Like
all of it.
we need to do one session, just day in the life of a youth pastor and everything that happens in not a
And just
week,
all of it,
not a
man.
month,
Not
but
in a week,
a day.
a
That's
day.
right. That's
And
a
here's
day,
the
man.
thing:
So
you start out and you're like, "This is how today's gonna go," and then
yeah,
some
I
fire,
get
like you got
that.
to put out fires, man. And so
Yeah, man. Yeah.
it never goes
That's
the way
right.
you think it's gonna go. But
Well,
so
for instance, we were supposed to record this podcast a month ago, and both our schedules
exactly,
blew up, and it didn't
right.
happen.
You
Well,
never
tell me
know.
this, man. That's right. You said you're from Wichita Falls. Because watching this podcast, are listening to this podcast, watching it. There are people who are going to be in ministry. There's going to be teenagers who may be feeling called to ministry. There's going to
Yeah,
be parents who have children who are struggling with the call to ministry.
right.
How did you get to where you are as a student pastor? Can you take us real quick from your call to maybe stops along the way to where you are right now?
Yeah. So I, through a crazy home life and just broken family, the whole 9 yards. I actually knew from a young age that I think this is what God was calling me to do.
Mm,
And I actually accepted my call to ministry when I was 13, my first ever
wow.
student camp. Um, and so started getting more involved in my church, within my student ministry. In high school, I kind of helped lead my student ministry, communicated the word, stuff like that. And then my senior year, I actually went to another church in town, and I was basically the middle school minister at that church my senior year of high school. And that was a
Wow. Yeah.
crazy experience that I probably would not recommend. But, and then I ended up, I grew up at a medium to small size church, and I ended up going to the biggest church in town, which I thought big churches were like the enemy of the gospel, uh,
Yeah.
and because they were the only church with a real college ministry, and so I ended up
Mm,
going there. And the student minister there, Sam Midget, said, "Hey, why don't you come be an intern for us?" And started interning, and then eventually ended up on staff, and served full time there for a while. Ended up at Battle Creek Church in Tulsa, which is an
okay.
incredible church,
Yeah. Yeah.
for a little while, and then got a call from Shreveport, Louisiana, and they said, "Hey, we really think that God's moving for you to be here," and you know, uh, ended up here, and we love it, man. Absolutely love it.
It's awesome. I love it.
Yeah,
And maybe help us out with this, man. So say there's someone on here, they're feeling this call. They're like, man, maybe God's calling me to ministry. I don't know if it's the burrito I
yeah,
ate for lunch or man, it's God calling on my life. I don't know. But say
right.
someone feels this call to ministry. What would be a good first step you would tell a teenager or a college student or man, dare we may say that even listen to this, or maybe an adult who's like, man, I've been in this career for 10 years and I know this is
Yeah.
not what I'm supposed to be doing. What would be a good first step to walking into that calling?
So this is gonna sound cheesy, and I really don't like to be cheesy, but the first step I would say is ask God to reveal some stuff to you. So first step is to say, "Hey God, I'm feeling this way. I'm trusting you. Uh, this may be backwards to some people, but I actually usually ask God to close doors I'm not supposed to walk through.
Yeah,
Make
that's
it
good.
very
Yeah.
evident,
Yep.
because I'm so hard headed. I'm like, God,
Yeah,
knock me on
man.
my butt. All right, when I try to do the wrong thing. So,
Yeah.
God,
Yeah.
slam doors in my face.
Mm.
Second thing I would say is go talk to somebody else, someone you trust, who's a follower of Jesus, and say like, Hey, I'm feeling this. Do you see this in my life? And third, I would say go talk to a minister, someone who is in ministry that you trust, and see what they have to say. Talk with them about what it was like for them. How do they feel? where were they at? Because you'll start to notice that certain things start to line up, right? I always tell students who are feeling called to ministry or they're getting started, I always tell them, hey, if you can ever picture yourself doing anything else and being happy, go do that.
Yeah, that's right.
But generally in ministry, the thought of doing something else might sound cool for like 10 minutes. But then when you really think about it, you're like, I would be miserable because I'm not living out the calling God's put on my life. So yeah, I would say those, seek God, seek wise counsel, and then seek someone who's you trust who's doing it. So I think those are 3 good steps to go with.
That's really good, man. I love that you said seek God first, because I think sometimes, and I've seen this happen where God wasn't calling somebody else was calling someone. And so if you seek someone else's counsel first, I can tell you this, there's a lot of people who would love to tell you what to do with your life, right? So seek the Lord 100%. First, right? Go after him, seek him, and then get that wise counsel, and then find someone else in ministry. I always tell people this too. If you think you're called to something and everybody in your life says, no, you might want to listen to that a little bit, too, not no, you shouldn't do that. But if you think it's like if I said I was going to be a worship leader, people who have heard me sing would say, Ryan, no, you're not, they know better. So anyway, but I appreciate that, man. And I can tell you have a passion, right, to reach the next generation. It's not just a call in your life, it's a passion in your life. Right. Can you tell me maybe a reason why you're so passionate beyond the call? I know it's a call from God and that's where it begins, but man, why is reaching this next generation so important?
Right. Well, I would say you do need to differentiate. I mean, your passion comes from your calling, but there are a lot of guys who are called to ministry, but they don't have the same passions in ministry, which is why we all end up that's probably going to determine what church you end up at or not church, doing some other form of ministry, what type of ministry, whether it's student ministry, children's ministry. I know a guy who he's 35 and we call him mature adult minister, senior citizens, which I think is so cool because he's passionate about it. Whenever you read through the word, look at history, the biggest changes in the world have always come through young people, almost exclusively. Movements have always started with young people. In my experience, in my time in the church and in ministry, well, I'll give you an example. In 2020, the world shuts down, right? March, we were literally about to do our big weekend, R.A.G.E now, and it was that weekend. It was that weekend that they started the 2 weeks. The 2 weeks that turned into however long. And we were all on the same page of like, okay, we probably need to back off. First, we canceled homes. We're not going to do homes. We're just going to have worship services. So we called it Big Thursday because all we had was Thursday night. That's all we got to have.
Yeah. There you go.
Well, so everything shuts down, right? Well, we, through the incredible work of the Lord, opening doors, shutting doors, doing all the health checks and everything, that August, we were actually able to go to camp. We only took a third of what we would normally take, a super small group. But we saw, out of 90 kids, we saw nearly 20 be baptized.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
So between at camp and that Sunday we come home, nearly 20 kids get baptized. Over the next months, our church baptized more people in 6 months than they had ever baptized in the last 20 years.
Wow.
All because these students were willing to stand up and say, my life needs to change. I need to give my life to the Lord and I want the world to know about it. And week after week after week, we saw adults be baptized. And when sharing their testimony, they always said, hey, if those kids can do it, I can do it. That was the inspiration. Man. And so, man, I just think, I think there's this fire in young people, and especially right now, more than ever, 13, 14, 17-year-olds are having real conversations of what it means to be human, what it means to love one another, what it means to lift one another up. Man, I think if we can inject Jesus into the middle of that conversation,
that's right.
I think the world changes overnight. I mean, I really do. And so, I think, Ryan, I think we always say like we're waiting on revival, right? We're waiting for. I think revival's happening, and we discount it a lot. And so I just, and I think it's happening. I think it's happening to young people. I mean, that Zoom call that you talked about, we hear week after week of dozens of students giving their life to Jesus and reaching their friends. It's happening, man. And so I mean, it is my passion. So like, I'm getting worked up and excited and ready to like roll right now. But that's where I think that's, and this is a bias of mine, but I think student ministry is the most important ministry out there for that reason. And so, I just, man, I love everything about it. If I'm 60 and working with students, I'm good with it.
Let's go, man. I love that, bro. Dude. I love that passion. I love the heart of that. And I think that's probably everybody who's called to student ministers, their heart. They're like, hey man, I'll do this till God puts me in the grave if he'll let me,
Right.
Because we see life change happen. We see momentum happen. We see here's the crazy thing. I thought about this. Like we see like family trees changed because the student was saved and born again, and their life's been radically changed. And so I love that. And what you said there about students, from camp coming back, being baptized, and how that sparks this movement. I see that over and over and over again. But I got a question for you on that lines. And I know you've worked with students for a long time, and I know you've seen this and had conversation with students. I don't think there's a student out there who would say, I know I need to share the gospel. Right? I know there are students who would say, I think most students, I should say, would agree, hey, I need to be telling my friends about Jesus. But a lot of them are not. If we look at surveys and stats, not just students, but adults as well, but we're specifically talking about students. And a lot of them, they're not sharing the gospel. They're not sharing their faith. Maybe in your time, have you picked up on one or two reasons why? What kind of keeps coming up? Hey, I would, or I want to, but what are some of those, if you will, those but reasons that they're not sharing the gospel?
So I think it purely, not purely, but I think the majority of it comes from, I think it's probably confidence / feeling unequipped issue. And I think most student pastors would follow that with, we need to equip students. We need to equip students. But I think we've actually done students a disservice of convincing them that they need a certain level of equipping before they're able to go share the gospel. I think we've convinced students that like, hey, you need a certain Christian IQ or whatever to go and share Jesus with your friends. Like, in my experience, the person who's most effective in sharing the gospel is the person who got saved last week and has no idea what they're talking about.
Boom.
Like, you know what I mean? In my experience, it's always a student who got saved and baptized 2 weeks ago that's showing up with 20 of their buddies saying, you got to experience this. I've had the experience here of, we had a student who, he basically came down. I got to have a conversation with it's weird that I say this was one of the coolest conversations I've ever had, because he didn't actually get saved in that moment, but he said, I know God's tugging on my heart. I don't feel ready, but I know there's something here. And I said, yeah, there absolutely is. And man, I'm going to keep praying for you and praying that God would give you the boldness and the courage to jump off and give your life to him. He didn't get saved. The next week he brought like 10 guys with him. And I was like, hey man, what are you doing? And he was like, hey, I didn't get saved, but I know my buddies need to hear about this. Like, isn't that crazy? Someone who's not even a follower of Jesus, right?
Yeah, man.
And so, I think students need to know that the most powerful thing they have to share is what God's done in their lives. If you sit down and have a conversation, especially like I was saying, the generation that's coming up right now, that's the conversations they want to have. They want to hear what is happening in your world, what's happening in your life. And so, I mean, hey, if you're a student out there, and let me tell you, I know we tell you this, I'm sure your student pastors told you this, I'm sure your senior pastors told you this, you will never have an experience or an opportunity like going to school every day with the same 400,000, 2,000
Yeah.
people, I promise you it's not going to be as weird as you think for you to tell them what's happened in your life. And let me tell you, if the conversation ends and they don't get saved, that's okay. That is totally okay.
Yeah.
But what if they do? What if they do? Not only is their life going to be changed forever, but let me tell you, student, your life is going to be changed forever. I mean, I cannot tell you how great it is to help lead someone to Jesus. I mean, it will change your walk forever. So, you know, I just think, I just want you to hear, if you're out there, like where you're at right now, God has you there for a reason.
Yes.
The people that you spend every day with, God has you spending every day with for a reason.
Yeah.
What you do or don't know about God right now, God wants you to know that much or not know that much about God, because it will probably help you to have the exact conversation you need to have with somebody. So, man, I just say fire it, shoot for it.
There you go.
There's a reason that forgiveness and grace exists, so that we don't have to be perfect. You know what I mean?
That's it, man.
So
That's right.
and sometimes you're gonna step into it. You're not gonna know what you're gonna say next. But like Hebrews 11:8 says, Abraham, when called to go to a place that he would later receive as his inheritance, the place that the God's chosen people would flourish, it says he obeyed and went, even though he didn't know where he was going. Like, think about that. He picked up his family, everything he had. He was a fairly successful guy, had a lot. He said, I'm giving up all of it. We're going to go that direction. Don't know what's going to happen, but I'm following God. You know, you step into a conversation, you may not know where the conversation is going to go.
That's right.
But let me tell you, going is way better than sitting still. So go for it.
So good, man.
I'm rambling now, but
no, man, that's right on, and I love that in students and even adults. I hope you hear that, because you know that is the essence of the Christian life. I think Mark Batterson would call it, you know, the wild goose chase, right? It's just following the lead of the Spirit, and you never know where you're going to go, but you got to step out in faith. And when you and I step out in faith and obedience, that's all He's asking for, right? Faith and obedience. We're not always going to get it right. We don't know everything. And I think that's sometimes what holds people back. They're like, what if I mess it up? What if I don't know everything? Hey, you're going to mess it up. And hey, you don't know everything. And that's great, because that's what you're not pointing them to you. You're pointing them to Jesus. Right. And, and that's when it's just real. And so I love, man, everything that you said there. And I think that's a really great encouragement, which leads me to, man, maybe one final question. There's a student watching, there's an adult listening. They're like, you know what? You're right, man. I need to start sharing my faith. You know, we have resources at 1millionsent.com, absolutely free. You can check those out and get trained on how to have Jesus conversations in everyday life. But what would maybe be one step you would give if someone's feeling that tug? They're like, yes, I need to, I want to, but what do I do? What would be a good first step for someone to take to get ready to share the gospel with someone else?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to sound cheesy again, but I would say you gotta let God know you want to do that, like that you're submitting to Him. But I'd tell you, if you're a student and I would tell you, if you're not getting involved in church, all right, make sure you're plugged into a student ministry. And then what I'd tell you is, I always tell our students, like, hey, the reason that we do fun stuff is it's an easy invite for you. All right.
Yeah.
So I would tell you, go talk to your student minister, or if you know something that's coming up in your church, before you even put out the conversation that you're going to be scared of is to have the weird Jesus conversation. Let me tell you an easier conversation you can start with. Hey, at my church this weekend, we're going to have free food, and there's going to be goats we can pet, or whatever crazy thing that you're doing. Come hang out.
Yes.
All right, it's going to be crazy. Yeah. Come check it out.
Yeah.
That's a great starting point. And if you're a student and you say, hey, I'm not sure that there's enough of that happening at my church, let me tell you, no student minister in the world, if you go and talk to them and say, hey, I want us to do something that I can invite my friends to, they're all going to jump on board. All right. They're going to be right there with you. So I would say that that's always a great first step, because let me tell you what, if there's a chance that your friend's going to get a free meal, or we had horses at an event a while ago, and everybody just want to take a picture with a horse, like whatever it is, there's probably going to be somebody who steps on the stage and has that weird conversation, right?
Yeah.
The Jesus conversation. And even if your friend doesn't respond to that, it opens the door for you to later on to be like, hey, what'd you think about that?
Good.
I think we've built this thing into us of like, in order to share the gospel, it's got to be a weird thing and you have to be weird and whatever.
Right.
It's like, no, it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
And I would say this, our pastor talked about this a while ago. There's an illusionist, Teller and Penn. And I think Teller's the one that doesn't talk. Penn was talking about how, basically one day he was signing autographs or whatever, and a guy comes up and he says the word proselytize, which is basically a fancy word for share the gospel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was basically talking about later on in an interview about this guy coming and sharing with them. And I don't know if he was asked the question of like, did that offend you? Did you feel weird?
Yeah.
And he said probably the most interesting thing an atheist could say. He said, I do not understand people who do not share the gospel if you believe in Jesus. Basically, I'm paraphrasing, but this is pretty much the dead on words. He said, how much do you have to hate someone to believe in heaven and hell and believe that that person is going to hell and not share the gospel with them?
That's right. Yep.
So, I mean, like, man, that's a challenge. And I know sometimes it may feel like you don't have enough. Let me tell you, one of the most incredible miracles Jesus did was feed the 5,000, right? You know what that took?
Yeah.
A kid showed up with his tiny little sack lunch, basically, and said, here's what I've got. Do with it what you can. Like, God doesn't need you to have the essay written out or the perfect presentation or a PowerPoint. Like, he doesn't need that. He needs you to show up and say, God, this is what I've got. Use it. He's gonna feed the 5,000, right? He's gonna do more with it than you could ever believe. And so, man, I'm telling you, like, this generation, you've got the power to change the world. You've got the power to change your school, your team.
That's good.
And the power is Jesus Christ. You're not leaning on you. You're leaning on him. So, like, man, just get in there, fire away. And I promise you, you're going to be happier that you did. I promise you. But
I love it.
So, I mean, just go for it, dude. Just go for it.
Just step out. Bring your lunch. I love that, man. Just bring your lunch. Right, bring what you've got, man, and watch what God does with it. And so, man, thank you so much, man, just for those, man, incredible stories and encouragements. Caleb, man, I just appreciate your heart in that. I love, you can tell this guy is a student pastor. He loves Jesus. He loves students. And, man, I hope that you got value out of this. And listen, as you were watching or listening, if somewhere along the way you're like, oh man, I wish so-and-so could hear this, share it with them. Let them know when you're watching or listening to this. Let them know, because I promise you, that prompting inside of you was not you. That was the Holy Spirit saying, you need to share this with a friend, because it may be the one word of encouragement they need to start living on mission as well. So Caleb, tell us real quick, man, how can people catch up with you? Maybe when you were talking, some things you said resonated with them. Maybe there's other youth pastors who want to connect, or someone feeling called to ministry. How can people connect with you, bro?
Yeah, man. So you can hit me up on Instagram. My @'s Caleb D Nichols. So middle name's Daniel. So I got all the Bible names.
There you go, man. I love it.
But CalebDNichols. Man, if you got something you want to talk about, DM me. I'll be more than happy to. If you want to follow our student page and see what's going on there, our student ministry is called More Students, MOOR Students. So yeah, man, like, love to talk with you if you got questions about sharing your faith. Man, if you're listening and you don't know Jesus, would love to have that conversation with you for sure. And so, yeah, man, hit me up.
I love it. Cool. And if you're ever in Shreveport, make sure you stop by and grab that Monjuni's with him. But before we go, Caleb, man, I've got to find out, because the people are waiting. The people are wondering, and they want to know, is Caleb Nichols a dog guy or a cat guy? What do you got, man?
I'll put it this way. My now wife, when we were dating, had a roommate that had a cat. I have 2 dogs, no cats. Did everything I could to avoid that cat. So I'm a dog guy through and through. In fact, just a little bit. Our poor puppy has got to go to the vet because he like messed up his paw, and I will do anything to protect that dog.
Oh,
Right, so
man. There you go.
I'm a big
There
dog
you
guy.
go.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it, man. I love it. Well, bro, thank you again for being part and what you're doing in
yeah,
Shreveport and beyond. Can't wait to grab some Italian when I get in town. Hey, Monjunis, if you happen to
yeah.
watch this, we need a show sponsor. You would be a great one. And but
There you
anyway,
go.
that's right. Or Strong's, either one doesn't matter to me.
Either one.
So
I'll take some free
that's
pie. I'll take some free
that's
pie for
right.
sure.
That's right. That's right, man. Well, listen, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching or listening wherever you are. Remember, it's super helpful for us if you will rate us, if you will share this out, drop a comment. I'm telling you, it helps us continue to get the message out. Not the message about us, but the message about Jesus, because our goal is to make him known. We have received the gospel to give the gospel. And every time you share, rate, review, leave a comment, it helps us do that. And you're a part of helping us train 1 million teens around the globe to share the gospel. If you haven't, go check out 1millioncent.com. And I can't wait to see you next time as we gather again on the 1 Million Cent podcast. But until then, don't forget this. Today is a great day to tell someone about Jesus. So let's go.